looking back in the mirror, what was it in your inner motivational drive and the curiosity as a boy that brought you to becoming an experimental psychologist and a gastrophysicist?
Certainly probably didn't know what psychology was, and gastrophysics didn't exist. A decade ago, never mind, 4 or 5 decades ago when I was a little boy. As you know, it feels in hindsight almost like a kind of accidental path, not really planned out, though I think to get into psychology in the first place, that was all a matter of, I used to go to my local library in Leeds in the north of England and take out books to borrow and supposedly to read. And I used to take lots of philosophy books out and then sort of return them after reading no more than the back cover because they were all too complicated. And once I'd been through the library's philosophy section, the next thing along the shelf was psychology, alphabetically. So I started dipping into some of those books, and that was kind of interesting. And I think probably the thing for me that drew me to it was that, unlike other sciences, the answers are still a newer field, so a lot more evolution and a lot more argument. And so you're not just being told what's the case. It's kind of, seemed to offer the opportunity to actually try and find out the truth, whatever that is, and to sort of argue with people. And if you had a good idea or a good experiment, then you could sort of, prove something. And it didn't require lots of equipment and money and just, a good idea and a bit of intuition, and off you go. And then from starting in psychology, that got into the senses, just again by accident, because I had to do a project and somebody had a broken TV, and my first experiments in psychology were kind of breaking TVs effectively and moving the sounds around and seeing what happened. And ever since, I've been sort of adding more senses to the mix. Would never have thought of getting into, initially it was all warning signals for car drivers and technology and audio, visual, and maybe a bit of touch. Would never have thought of getting into food, just because none of the other psychologists seemed to get into food. And then it kind of turned out once you got into the world of smell and taste, it was really interesting. And there were lots of, not much studied, but kind of evolutionarily interesting. There's always like some theoretical questions there. And just one thing led to another. And then we got introduced to some chefs, and then those chefs got famous, and suddenly things took off, and now I spend most of my time trying to tell other people, especially the psychologists, even if you're not interested in studying food, you should be interested in food, because it's probably what got our brains evolved quite the way they are, and sort of become an evangelist, I guess, for food psychology and gastrophysics. But in hindsight, all kind of an accident of, a broken television, the arrangement of subjects in the local library, and so on.